Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial, and today I'm going to be walking through a little bit of a different video than I normally do. Today, as you can see by what's on screen, I'm going to be walking through how I went about purchasing my first rental property through a method known as house hacking. Now, as I go through this, I do want to go ahead and say right from the get-go that my intention was not necessarily to do house hacking as I went through this, but rather I was looking for a place to live. I had some friends that we were going to be staying with, and when I looked at different places to rent, I decided, it doesn't necessarily make sense. So I am by no means an expert on this. I am currently doing this on my second home, and I am now 24 years old, so this occurred 3 years ago. But that's just to provide a little bit of context. A lot of work went into this video, so I am going to do the obligatory. Please like the video if you find this helpful, subscribe if you're not currently a subscriber, and follow me on Instagram at Achilles Financial. So without further ado, let's dive in. So what was going on at the time? So when I was 21 years old, I was almost done with college. I was graduating a semester early. It was the springtime, and I had an internship with the company, and I said that I was going to go full-time that summer, and I was just super excited about that opportunity. And I was looking for a place to live, and it was really close to where I was going to school at that time. And I was going to continue to get my MBA just because there was a variety of different advantages to going to that same school. Key and foremost amongst them were the fact that I was going to be able to waive my GRE application because I had completed my undergraduate there. It was nearby, and I was able to start taking the courses early, so I was going to be able to finish the 18-month program within 12 months, or rather I was going to be able to start those classes early in that last semester my senior year. So this is what I was doing, and we started looking for places, and all of the rentals were essentially more than $1,000, and it was myself and two friends. And if we were going to be looking at these places, I said, well, what if I just buy a place, and instead of us paying rent, we just pay off my mortgage? Because I had been wanting to get into real estate, and the area that I lived was very, I don't want to say low income, but it was not Atlanta, and I am in the Georgia marketplace on the East Coast. So the home that I actually purchased is what you see here on the screen. It was a 4-bed, 3-bath split-level home, and it had 2,400 square feet on just under 1 acre of land that backed up to the woods that you can see here. So this is the home at purchase, and it was just a awesome first place, and I was really happy with it. What that looked like is, as you can see, it had a bedroom, it had 2 kitchens, one upstairs, one downstairs, and there's just another view of the home. So it did have a fenced-in backyard, so I did get a dog soon afterwards. As you can see, the way that I went about purchasing this home, and just for those of you who are not in a similar real estate market, I do want to reiterate this is a 2,400 square foot home that I purchased for $150,000. So just a reminder that depending on where you live will showcase a lot about what you're able to buy. Again, this is kind of the middle of nowhere, Georgia, but it was just a cool opportunity that I was able to go in on. I did get an FHA loan, which only required me to put down 3.5%. This is kind of like a first-time home buyer type of loan, and this is just my opinion, and that is to never do an FHA loan. And if it warrants another video, we could kind of go more in depth, but the key thing behind this is you're never able to get out of PMI or private mortgage insurance, which essentially means that you are going to be paying an additional allotted amount on a monthly basis. And for a lot of people who are not able to do a large down payment, they go ahead and get these FHA loans, and they just have to pay these mortgages, or rather this mortgage insurance, indefinitely. And I would recommend not doing that, to just do conventional financing, because once you pass 20% equity for your home, you're going to be able to stop paying that amount. That's just my opinion. Feel free to consult with a financial advisor, but I personally will never do an FHA loan again, and I heavily encourage my friends not to. The other fee that we did here is I did split the closing costs with the seller, so that was around $3,000, which meant that my total down payment was $8,250. I had accumulated this amount by working over college, whether it was in the fitness center as a accounting tutor or whether it was on various internships. So this is a summary that I took directly out of my essentially workbook that I was using to track finances, and I just put it all together in one. And I owned this home from May of 2017 to May of 2019 when I went through a work-related move. We'll talk about that a little bit more soon. But essentially the total revenues that I was bringing in is what you see here on the screen. So this is, I had anywhere between 2 to as many as 4 friends that would stay with me at a time, and they would pay rent. At some points in time, I do think that I could have charged more because essentially we were charging by the bedroom. However, these were at the end of the day my friends, and despite the fact that I was their landlord, I really wanted it to be affordable for all of us to have a place to stay, not to try and price gouge them. So this is what I was doing, and as you can see with all of these added up, again, the most profitable year was definitely 2018. I can explain some of the inconsistencies with the income depending on how many people were living with me, as well as occasionally I would require a first and last month's payment just to be considered for a security deposit. The other side of the balance sheet is the expenses. So what I did here, because I don't have the actual month level detail, is I accumulated everything into one spot. And this is inclusive of utilities as well as internet and trash. So everything in here we just kind of straight lined. I do think that this is a little bit of a higher estimate, but what I don't include in my next slide, which is essentially reviewing some of the other information, is I did not include in here things like gas for the lawnmower or fertilizer or just some of the small stuff that I was buying. But that is included here, and you can see that it provides a consistent $15,660 a month, or rather a year. The other expenses that were not necessarily expected aside from the washer and dryer is I did have some damage due to some wood rotting in the front, and that new front entrance was a surprise $1,800 cost that I had to deal with. I did have to purchase a dehumidifier as well as a window AC unit for one of the downstairs living areas where the HVAC was not reaching. So there was just a number of items where there would be additional costs that would come up. That information was available and came up here. Again, not anything crazy, but just additional. It wasn't always what I was expecting. So then on May 4th of 2019, I actually was able to sell the home, or it says here May 7th. I think that's just when it was updated. But I sold the home for $169,000. There was a lot of homes that were selling immediately. The reason for that is because there were 2 companies that announced they were moving to that area, and there were not a lot of homes under the $200,000 mark that were for sale. So I said, hey, let's put it for sale. I have to move for work. Let's just do 180. And I threw it out there, and 3 days later I had an all cash offer for $165,000. I told him I'd meet him at 169, and it closed. So one of the things that, looking back, not that I am an advocate of coulda, woulda, shoulda, is I wish that I had told the realtor that I would only ask for 3% commission. And for those of you who are realtors, I understand that that may not be awesome and exciting, but the fact is all he did was put it on Zillow, and I had 3 offers within 3 days. And it essentially was that. The person who ended up buying the home never actually came out and looked at it. So this is just one of those instances where I could have saved a good $5,000 that would have went directly to me just by saying, hey, I'm not going to work with you unless you only do 3%. So that is valued there. And then you can see that my mortgage balance was still remaining at $136,000. We'll talk about that as well. And then the total profit associated with that was $22,860. And all of these are approximate values just based off what I still have, as well as kind of what we can find and look at. So the first thing that I want to look at is that mortgage balance. As you can see, based off the earlier payments of essentially we were looking at like $46,000 that I had expenses. You have to remember that when we're looking at mortgage amortization, it is very interest heavy. So this is just an example that I pulled from nerdwallet.com, where you can see that after 2 years on the kind of same loan logistics that I was looking at, that I had only paid $5,102 off my initial mortgage balance. Now, I did end up making an additional payment and a half just because I was paying $100 extra every month, and then I made an extra mortgage payment at the end, and that's how I got down to $136. So the reason that I bring this on here is because it's very important for you to consider, if I'm going to be living somewhere for under 2 to 3 years, is it worth owning a home? And this can often be counterproductive if you're going to be doing that. I was lucky in that my home appreciated very rapidly over a 2-year period of time. However, if I look at that home today, it still has the same value, and the homes around there have the same value. So you don't always get super lucky, and that's something that I can see here and is provided on this screen. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at other properties. So what does all this mean? So how much did I make or lose? As you can see here, my down payment and fees was at $8,250. I brought in nearly $29,000. However, my total expenses from everything was just over $50,000. You have to remember that during this time period at 21, 22, 23 years old, this was a lot of money going in and out the door. And it really enabled me to feel more confident because so much of my living expenses were taken care of that I was shoveling anything I made from work into student loan debt at the time. The other thing I would highlight is at the end I had this windfall of where I essentially caught $22,860. So what did this look like at the end of the day is my total profit loss is over 2 years I spent $7,165. So this was actually a loss for me. However, what I'm not including here is there were tax benefits to this, which I would highlight here. And the other thing is my cost of living for 24 months was only $300 a month. One of the things that was interesting here is I was a landlord, and this is something that you learn very quickly. I mean, I was taking care of things such as moving stuff. I was helping to create lease agreements and to make lease agreements. I was managing a property despite the fact that I was living there. And particularly when you're working with friends or living with friends, it can be testy at times, but I was really lucky with everyone I lived with. And if they're watching the video, then I appreciate them, and it was fantastic. It was just a cool experience, but you do learn very quickly that you have to separate out your personal life and your business life in this example. I would also highlight that homes are expensive, particularly when there are repairs, and if you don't have a lot of excess cash to take care of that, then you can easily dig into your savings, dig into your surplus, or have to apply on a credit card. I was young and not making a lot of money from my job at the time, and there was reasons for that, but whenever I had a big expense, like I had to replace the front entrance for $1,800, then it got really expensive really fast. But it still benefited, and I would not say that I would not do it, as evidenced by the fact that I'm currently doing it again. The other advantage was that there were a lot of tax benefits that kind of mitigated some of that risk. The one thing that I would leave as my coulda, shoulda, woulda is I shouldn't have sold the home. Despite the fact that I was able to use the proceeds from that to essentially wipe out my student loan debt, which was the biggest blessing that provided to me. At the end of the day, I would have liked to continue owning the rental property, but I don't see any way that I would have known to do that. at this point in time, just because I did not know and I was still learning a lot. But it was a great experience. I learned a lot, and at the end of the day, there was good monetary decisions made as a result of that. So that being said, I appreciate those of you who stuck around. It's been awesome, and if you have any questions, drop those in the comments below, and then like the video, and if you're not currently a subscriber, please subscribe. It would really appreciate it. Thank you. Talk to you later.